Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending our panel discussion today on real engagement is the new normal. I'm Sachin Shah. For those of you who don't know me, I'm on the consulting team here at SkillNet. Prior to being at SkillNet, I started my career at Macy's and then Target, and then more recently worked for the women's accessory company named Vera Bradley in their strategy department. For 20 plus years, SkillNet has been closing the gap between yesterday's technology and tomorrow's commerce. By enabling rich commerce experiences across the platforms, we make modern commerce happen faster. As you can see, we have many well-known global brands that are recognizable, and we're really fortunate today to have Fleet Farm represented on our panel discussion. We have both Gary Conitzer, IT Director, Business Systems and Application Development, and Ajitesh Nanda, Principal Enterprise Architect representing Fleet Farm. Gary has over 30 years of retail experience and currently manages an internal team of dedicated IT resources in combination with partners including SkillNet to support the needs of this highly respected 40-store Midwestern chain based in Appleton, Wisconsin. Fleet Farm's brick and mortar stores include auto service centers, gas, and convenience, in addition to full-scale mass merchandise. His team also supports fleetfarm.com. Ajitesh serves as a principal enterprise architect at Fleet Farm, leveraging his 19 plus years knowledge base of retail operations, IT expertise, and business savvy to lead and guide the organization through major implementation and projects of all sizes to achieve great systematic results. We also have Scott Stever, who's an adjunct professor at Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. Scott has led the Digital Initiatives program at ABC Home and Carpet in New York. But in addition to that, he's held transformative positions at Michael Kors, Vera Bradley, and Vitamin Shoppe. I'd like to thank all three of you for attending, and look forward to this panel discussion. Today's agenda is separated into 5 different areas. We're going to start with the question is, where are we in the new normal? I think a lot of people have seen this graph before, or some sort of format of this graph from other presentations. And looking at the data, it looks like whether or not we are at the new normal or not, we're very close. So right now, this data is showing consumer spending up through September. And consumer spending through September was only off 3.2% from January. Now, you can see that grocery is up 10%, which obviously makes sense during the pandemic. Apparel was down 5.4%. So what does this really mean for us? Well, I think the question comes up, if you have lost customers, the question is, will they be coming back? That's hard to say because it looks like consumer dollars have just been reallocated to other avenues or other channels or other retailers or brands. In fact, Kroger estimates that 50% of their digital commerce customers have come from their competitors. So how are consumer-oriented companies adapting to this uncertainty? We see 3 trends happening. One is that we see brands and retailers and other companies enhancing their mobile applications. So they're moving it from more of a transactional to a relationship building platform. When mobile apps first came out, a lot of people just thought of them as an extension of e-commerce sites. But now you're seeing mobile apps having their own distinct customer journeys. We're going to have a lot of examples of that during this panel discussion. So I'll leave that first trend there. The second trend that we're seeing are companies really trying to build up their loyalty programs and move away from just offering a discount. So examples of that, you see Levi's has a concert series for their VIP customers. You also see Sephora doing private beauty events for their top tier customers. So really there's some unique, innovative ways that people are trying to keep that existing customer. I think we all know that fact that, you know, getting a new customer is usually 10 times more expensive than keeping an existing customer. The third trend that we're seeing, and I think everyone's seen this, is brands offering additional fulfillment options. So that includes the curbside pickup or the drive-through you see at Walmart and Target. But there are other companies that are doing some innovative things in this space as well. So, for example, Kroger's partnered up with Walgreens, and wherever there's not a close Walgreens close to a Kroger's, Kroger's is offering grocery pickup at those Walgreens locations. So that's really innovative. Before we get started with the panel discussion, I'm going to initiate a poll as we want to get some feedback from all of you that are attending to see how you're adapting to the new normal. So let me start that poll, and we will publish the results at the end. Now, Gary and Ajitesh, if you want to start off, tell us how you think retailers are adapting to the new normal, and love to hear some examples of what Fleet Farm is doing.
That's how are retailers adapting to the new normal? Well, we see some of our competitors doing things quite well. We're a bit jealous, haha. I think overall the generic answer might be not well, because it's not. I think we've all learned that the old right product, right place, right time is still in effect. However, the caveat is it comes along with an informed consumer. And preferably that informed consumer, that information should come from you and your brand and your engagement with them versus outside influences. As now more than ever before, they're more aware of why product is here or not here. If it's not here, when can I get it? You know, via technology, email notifications, text messages, and of course the store associate can't be undersold. They're still a critical part of our picture, as we do have 44 brick and mortar locations as well as the .com. But the consumer's been given a larger look into something called supply chain, right? Until the pandemic, did consumers really know or care about supply chain? Some did, most didn't. Now they're all hyper aware, right? Continuous media coverage. The buzzword on all of the major networks since the pandemic has hit is supply chain, supply chain, supply chain. So these are things customers have not considered in the past. Shopping habits to the .com and beyond. And of course, they hit the nail right on the head. I believe it's probably more than 2 years now, where in the holiday season, the .com has outpaced store sales. So Fleet Farm is on this journey. We're a bit late, to be honest, to things like mobile app. So we partnered up with our friends at SkillNet, and we are actively working on deploying our first foray into mobile app. That's good and bad, right? We're late. Okay. It's good, though, insofar as we can take direct advantage of things that maybe didn't work so well, and the optics on things that seem to have worked much better. And internally, we're having a lot of discussions on the impact of the pandemic. You mentioned Kroger. We talked to those fine folks, and I think we're all in this mode right now. How much of the residual impact will remain post-pandemic? We were very fortunate to be considered an essential business, so we remained open throughout this process. So in addition to us improving our engagement with our customer via new technologies and existing technologies, we now also have the challenge of deciding how much of that consumer demand will remain post-vaccination. We had a spike in sales in categories at a time of year where they normally were fairly quiet. Things started selling at an unprecedented rate. Everything on the honey-do list, small hardware, interior paint, comfy apparel, and essential business and industry apparel. We sell scrubs. So our friends in the medical business who kept going to work bought a ton of scrubs. And the trades kept working, right? Construction kept going. So those things remain strong. And now we have to take into consideration, as we figure out this technology journey and engagement journey, how we remain super relevant to those folks. There's a bit of exhaustion out there for people who had to keep working. Is there a way we can serve those people and make them feel appreciated, special? I think, Sachin, you already mentioned, let's not always give things away. That's a big part of our strategy. I have a 21-year-old daughter who has deleted all of the apps off her phone, with the exception of one, whom happens to be one of your former employers, but I won't name them. But why did she do that? Because all they ever told her was, we're having a sale, we're having a sale. And she's like, of course you're having a sale, you're a retailer. Why don't you tell me something that means something to me? Like the spring apparel line is in my color choices. You know my color choices because I've shopped you for a long time. So those are the very granular discussions that are going on here. And again, a bit redundant, but what percent of shoppers will continue with the BOPUS or pick, pack, and ship behavior and may never return to the store, or their frequency will reduce dramatically and not rebound. There's been a lot of commentary from a lot of different parts of industry on that's anywhere from 30% to 70%. It's critical for us because we do have stores. It's forced us to shift the labor model inside the four walls of the store. The focus was always on the front end. Have as many checkouts open as possible. Have sales associates on the floor to assist customers. Now, overnight, it had to transition to more associates available to perform BOPUS and pick, pack, and ship. It forced us to rapidly redefine the customer journey with both technology and business process to accommodate contactless customer pickup. We're fortunate that we have an outside loading yard philosophy where consumers can literally pull up to a gate, present their order, we open the gate, let them in, and we do a contactless pickup for them for their BOPUS product. So we're lucky. And in that instance, you literally don't have to come inside the four walls of the store. But on this journey of technology and business process, and let's do what's right for the customer, that focus on continued rapid deployment of in-store business process improvement to enable faster service, whether it's still traditional in-store shopping or whether it's pick, pack, ship, or BOPUS. That's really being fine-tuned, and we plan to leverage the mobile app in particular to get there and to do meaningful things for the customer. We're working on putting the loyalty product, which is also in the process of going live. We want to wrap that around the entire organization. What do I mean by that? Well, we want the .com, the brick and mortar, the pick, pack, ship, the BOPUS, all of those things should feel very comfortable to the consumer. Should enable them to do what they want, when they want, how they want. And in our world, BOPUS takes precedence in the queue. We're ever trying to reduce the expected time for pickup. I know we're not alone in that. Technology helps tremendously by queuing and making associates aware of how many orders are in the queue at any given time. Those methodologies continue to refine by improving the technology. And then we've had some interesting additional spends that were not expected. We had to add an additional amount of physical device hardware in the store, put things in the hands of more associates to accomplish this. Even silly things like we had to add additional printers to accommodate the volume of orders coming in. So that was a lot of words. I'll stop.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Ajitesh, what would you add to Gary's comments about Fleet Farm?
I think he has covered actually all aspect of it. And, the supply chain, he mentioned about that. Definitely we did some changes during this COVID situation. We had a process called auto cross dock. So it kind of look at the demand real time, what is in the truck, and it's kind of allocate right away to the store demand in the store. And also Gary mentioned about the contactless, pickup that which we did. We did it actually, maybe in a couple of days, we turned it to production. So, these are the two things from the supply chain side as well as actually the customer facing side, which we did. And it kind of have a very good result and impact on our customer.
Excellent. Scott, from the academic perspective, how are you seeing retailers or other companies and brands adapting to the situation?
Certainly, I think the concepts that Gary brought up are absolutely relevant to what I'm seeing in the marketplace. I am continually amazed at the level of creativity and the speed at which retailers have made adjustments to their business models across the different channels within retail. Necessity is the mother of all invention, and people really have gotten out there and just gone ahead and really started making changes because they had to. I certainly can share an experience that I had, and I think probably some of you may have had a similar one. COVID hit in late March, at least here in New York, and went scurrying down to our local grocery store. Like everybody else, and everybody's freaking out and buying, toilet paper and peanut butter and all the other sundries. And I got to the store and I filled up my cart, and there's this huge long line waiting at the grocery store. It happened to be Fairway, which is one of our local grocers. And I realized I had forgotten my wallet. And I was like, oh my God. So I literally put my cart aside. I talked to the manager. I said, can you just leave this here? Because I don't want people to take my toilet paper. And I scurried home, got my wallet, came back. It all was fine. But then next time I went, I realized that they had changed their mobile app and allowed for people to do self-checkout. And so no longer waiting in line. It was tied into their loyalty program. It was tied into my Apple Pay. It was bring your own device. You could do price scanning and checkout. So all you would do is you'd walk through the store, put your items directly into the basket, into your bags. At the end, someone would take a look at it and off you went. And so they really saw that there was an issue. They saw the concern and the level of anxiety that people were facing. And they came up and they made a really quick change to how they ran their business. And I think perhaps that this was in the works before the COVID hit, but they really drove it and then started marketing it very effectively in store and in their advertisements. So ultimately, going to the grocery was no longer an anxiety invoking experience for me. You go in, you walk through quickly, and out you go. And so it's just one example that I saw in my life here, but some of the other examples that you brought up and Gary brought up are absolutely spot on. Retailers are really finding creative ways to meet the customer expectations.
Wow, yeah, that's just a great example and great grocery example as well. And just out of curiosity, how many, they must have had it already in the working on that self-checkout from their own hardware. But you saw that difference in 10 days or 12 days?
Yeah, within 10 days, 2 weeks, where they really had transformed and the hardware was there. And perhaps it was there and I never noticed it, but they really started marketing it and really made it prominent front and center to help consumers work through what was a very worrying time. And, I don't know about you, but our grocery shelves were, certain items were picked through, you couldn't get stuff. And there was really a high level of anxiety, at least certainly to start out with. And the supply chain that Gary talked about was stressed and continues to be stressed across the way. But this was one way I think that they really were able to successfully make a transition to a self-checkout and not going through a self-checkout line, but actually using your own devices, an app that already existed. It was loyalty, but again, they expanded upon that and made the function that much greater. And so, again, I don't know whether they were working on that ahead of time or they just really pivoted quickly. But in any case, it really made a difference in terms of the experience of shopping with Fairway and just made it a lot easier for me as a consumer.
Yeah, and I think, that anxiousness also, speaking from my own experiences, I think that weekend of St. Patrick's Day, I went to an Aldi store in the north side of Chicago. And I was scared. We were all scared, and just seeing empty shelves, people competing with each other to get that last can of plum tomatoes. It was scary. So, great examples. All right, let's go to the next section here. It's great stuff. So in those examples, we can see companies are investing in technology, improve engagement, reduce our anxieties, etc. Question is, do these investments work? And then the way you judge that is, sales. Based on quarter 2 and quarter 3 results from some publicly traded companies, answer seems to be a resounding yes. They seem to be working. Target has achieved, I think, the holy grail of retail, 20% same-store sales, yet they started Q3 with 3% less inventory. That's amazing. Their digital sales incrementally grew $2 billion, with $700 million coming from drive-up services, which was in itself a 500% increase from last year. For those inventory management professionals, I think the other really neat stat here is they were able to fulfill 75% of their digital orders from stores. I mean, that's just such an incredible thing. You may have some dead inventory sitting in the south side of Chicago, a bathing suit that's not going to sell in December. They're able to ship it to a customer in Fort Lauderdale. So you're able to you're able to capitalize on inventory that wasn't going to be sold, or you're going to have to sell a markdown. That's amazing. I think if you look at some other examples, Walmart similarly saw their average basket size double for curbside pickup, and Kroger has seen over 108% growth in their digital sales. You know, another kind of viewpoint, some of you may have seen this McKinsey study around customer experience. They did a study and they found that those companies that are known to be customer experience leaders typically have a 3 times return on shareholder value than what they would call laggards. So based off of that, again, going back to the panel, Gary, let's start with you, and then Ajitesh, you can fill in as well. How are retailers improving customer engagement? You kind of touched on it already in the previous question, but love to hear some more examples since you had some great stuff already.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of it may be a bit redundant, but that's by nature because it's important. When you hear things repeated, that means they're highly meaningful, right? Yeah. So, you know, informed and empowered consumer, informed and empowered sales associate, you know, those are, in our world, those are 1A and 1AA. They're symbiotic, they go together. The empowered consumer, of course, when they're on their journey on their own on mobile app or the .com is critical. You have to put as much information and empower them to do what they want in their hands as humanly possible. And that is definitely part of how we intend to deploy some of these newer assets that we're onboarding. And I'll explain that in a little more detail in a minute. But that empowered sales associate and call center associate and any team member who may interact with the consumer, make sure they have the same access to the information the customer has, you know, plus more. And what is more? More in our world is additional product information via relationships with the manufacturers. We have some excellent partners in this area, and we're encouraging more and more to come online all the time. You know, we have 170,000 active SKUs across a wide range of products. Things as specialized as high-powered sights for a firearm, which costs several $100s. For some customers, could be an entire paycheck as a spend. You want that information in their hands should they come through the .com channel, and certainly when they're in store, you want that associate to be able to take care of them and make sure they're comfortable with that type of purchase. Same thing with tires on your motor vehicle. We have a journey now with help from our friends at SkillNet. We can make auto service center appointments online for tire purchases, and that is a very informed consumer. Via help from the manufacturers, you can know everything about that tire, not just that it's black and round. So things like that are mission critical to us with the depth and breadth of products we carry in the 7 verticals that we do business in. So, and what is more is also giving those folks, the non-customer folks, the empower to delight. If there's something that isn't quite right, or we can make it better, let's do that. Let's give a spiff. Let's give more information. If maybe the gun sight that you had your heart set on isn't in stock due to supply chain issues, let's delight you by giving you the one up at the same retail price. Let's empower them to solve. You know, let's take care of the consumer. Some things, as we know, and we've talked about it already, are jeopardized by the supply chain. Some manufacturers shut down due to COVID, and we're in a waiting pattern for them to reopen. So let's use the technology. Let's re-engage with you how you'd like to be re-engaged with. And, you know, don't forget the boomers. They have all the money and they need the service and they want the service. So you may have to go as low tech as a phone call, not always just a text or an email, to re-engage with them when product does reappear, or to handle any follow-on questions they may need or have. They may not want to download your mobile app, even though it is information rich. So we have the challenge of keeping in mind, you know, our entire spectrum of customers, from 2 years old to 98 years old and everywhere in between. And, you know, the whole empowerment of save the sale, I kind of touched on it a bit, upsell at the same price, issue a rain check, activate a back in stock notification, use the technology to empower your associates, to delight the consumer, save the sale. You know, you don't get many opportunities to disappoint. And for us, on any given day, our biggest competitor is Amazon, whether we like it or not. So, you know, everything has changed from a technology solution set, and nothing has changed. For the Chicago folks on the phone, The Midwesterners, in the 1880s, Marshall Field said, give the lady what she wants. Today, we would rebrand it and say, give the customer what they want. That part has not changed. It's still all about the service, whether this is a self-led journey via the technology or assisted from an associate. In many instances in our world, maybe not under one roof line, but many people are selling the same stuff for about the same price. So you have got to differentiate. You've got to create that comfy, cozy feeling through your technology and through your empowered sales staff. Our technology asset integration is going quite well. We plan to elegantly deliver that engaged experience. Linking that brick and mortar POS with the .com, providing the same customer experience, same marketing messaging, branding messaging. Not to say there won't be, in-store only specials to entice you or online only specials, but overall, it'll be highly clear to the consumer that it's not just our brand, it's their brand. Our customers, God bless them, take a great deal of ownership in Fleet Farm. They refer to our brick and mortar stores as my Fleet Farm. So we use technology to help foster that attitude and behavior as well. We offer them the opportunity to vote every month on which Fleet Farm store is the best. They get very passionate about this. And we're going to leverage our internal assets as well. We're fortunate to be blessed with some very smart people who have internally purpose-built applications that the giant ERP products don't always cover. We're very lucky that we have an ERP platform that consists of all tier 1 assets, Oracle, JDA, Manhattan, however, there are some discrete things at location level, individual level, maybe even corporate level that these ERP products really aren't built to handle. So it is our goal to take those in-house purpose-built products and rapidly solve with the consumer in conjunction with those big heavy hitter ERP assets. We want to continue to answer, their number one question remains, where is it in this giant store? Immediately followed by, do you have any? Immediately followed by, how many? Especially now with the pandemic. Folks are buying the maximum quantities available of select products. So again, the technology comes into play. We don't really enforce the limitations. We ask the consumers to respect it. We have set the brick and mortar POS up wise to quantity limit certain products. If you hit the maximum threshold within a transaction, we may advise you. So far we haven't, but the technology's there. And again, back to the store associates and the call center team members having the exact same or more capabilities. It is our goal to have this be also very experiential. Again, making the customer feel this is their brand. We want them to own the Fleet Farm brand. That piece of the puzzle, having that level of buy-in, that level of passion about Fleet Farm, insofar as we can outfit you from head to toe, door to door, take care of your pet, your person, all your recreational habits, your hobby farming. We even have beekeeping supplies. So it is a big challenge to make sure that these applications and the technology journey incorporate all of that emotion, all of that feeling, the wants, the needs. And I said it earlier, we were considered an essential business. There's a paradigm difference between need and want. So the art and science that we're putting into this to incorporate both is a big challenge, and we're working diligently on it.
Excellent. I'll just ask you anything else to add with Gary's thoughts?
Sure. I just would like to add a couple of things. And Gary kind of mentioned about how technology is driving the customer engagement. So I will just talk a bit about data. And we used to say knowledge is power. Now we are saying like data is power. And again, this is what we are experiencing. I'm pretty sure most of the retailer or company, they are also maybe going through this. So a lot of data, a lot of transactions. So we look at the value chain of retail, starting from sourcing to selling, right? Everywhere there's a lot of abundant data, a lot of transaction, purchase order, everything. So the challenge, what we are facing, how to use the data and to drive conclusion, right? So we get requests from our leadership, how we can connect the dot. So, and we always pause for time. We kind of ponder about it, we spend time, but still, it's a big challenge for us. And I hope, it's maybe a challenge for other retailers as well. And how, we can actually put the data together, where we can drive conclusion, we can drive, decision, and how that is going to help retailer from sourcing to selling, right? And that's going to lead to have a better lead time, supplier compliance, in-stock position, safety stock, competitive costing and pricing, customer segmentation and engagement, and definitely enhance user experience, right? So this is so powerful, and I just want to call it out. And nowadays, right, in the old time, it's all reactive. Now it's all, we are talking about the predictive and the prescriptive analytics. That is very, 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 very needed actually for any organization, specifically for retailer, because with all these changing, a lot of things are very dynamic, right? COVID, nobody expected it suddenly occur, right? And then, so how we are going to, even though we have sophisticated planning, predictive, planning suite of application, but the prediction is not always going to be right, because there are so many different circumstances which is going to impact the predictability, right? So then we are coming to the prescriptive data analytics, which is how, if the things are not going the way we plan, how we are going to handle it, right? So for example, weather, the change of weather impacting a lot of sales revenue, okay, no doubt about it, we kind of face it on a regular basis. And then how that can be handled, right, using some kind of the prescriptive analytics. So that's the challenge we are actually facing, and we are trying to get the weather feed and kind of put into our ERP so that at least we can solve that. So, and I also want to call it out, so mostly like the retail centric data warehouse, which we are also kind of another challenge for us, because it's only like most history based, reactive, but we just want to make it predictive, prescriptive. So we are converting our retail-centric data warehouse to a enterprise-centric data warehouse, because that's a challenge we are facing. And so transforming it is very, very needed. And I would actually recommend, right, because that's a struggle for everyone. We are not able to, even though we have the data point, we are not able to connect the data. And once we actually convert a retail-centric to a enterprise-centric data warehouse, which will provide meaningful information, okay, and the customer, retailer, and supplier. And as Gary stated, right, if I'm getting a lot of email communication from a retailer, I would just say, hey, just don't send me, right? It has to be segmented. Okay, they should know what my preference, and based on that, they should send me some of the promotion or whatever offer they have. So that is very, very needed. So it's all data driven, and we need to make sure that we are using the data in the right direction.
Excellent. Scott, any additional comments on?
I think Ajitesh and Gary had great points and great insight there. I would add in there an experience from myself and my most previous experience with ABC Carpet and Home. And we were a New York-based retailer. All of our shops are in New York. All of our distribution centers are in New York. And so when COVID hit, our stores were closed down. Our online was closed down also, partly for a period of time because we couldn't have our warehouse up and operating. And so when things came back online, certainly there were restrictions in terms of number of people being allowed to come into the store. But thankfully, what we had done actually prior to COVID was really start thinking about how do we improve the online to offline experience for our consumers. And for those of you who don't know ABC Carpet and Home, high-end home furnishings retailer. We have a high AOV, a high average unit retail, lots of unique one-of-a-kind product, whether that be furniture or jewelry or sort of a variety of different or pottery, etc. And so it's one of a kind, and lots of times, a picture online doesn't do that product justice. And so we'd actually started looking and partnered with a group out there that really supported the virtual shopping process. And so the tool that we put in play, or was in the process of putting in play before I left, was able to allow for texting between a customer online and a in-store associate, also doing video share and image share, so that if someone wanted to really get a texture or get more information about a product, they could have an interaction with an actual sales associate. It also allowed us to do scheduling, so allowed people to set up times to actually come into the store. So once the store opened up, you were able to then come in and look at your $50,000 carpets or your $15,000, sofas, come and sit and experience those in a way that makes it so that you can actually purchase. And so, again, we had started that journey before COVID hit, but thankfully we were down that path and really understanding now we can actually adapt and change to the customer's expectation and change the engagement model where they couldn't just walk into a store. I mean, there weren't people walking around downtown Manhattan or Union Square. This was a way to continue to engage the consumer who was online, perhaps wanted more information, and then eventually when the stores opened up, you could then come in and schedule an appointment. So I think tools like that are flexible and adaptable are very, very important in this age of COVID, because we don't know, we see hotspots and we see orange and red and stores closing down and coming back online, and so it's a very challenging environment. So if you can add flexibility to your tool set and give the customer the best facsimile of the experience that you can, you are going to set yourself up for success even in this uncertain time.
All right, that's the great examples, and when you're saying $50,000 carpets, I assume you meant Canadian dollars or something cheaper than US dollar, but the last time I shopped at ABC Home and Carpet, we were competing for sales associate attention with Meredith Vieira. So there you go. All right. Great examples. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the next section. I think you guys have already kind of talked about mobile apps and how they move from transactional to relational. I love the example, Scott, that you just talked about, also about doing the chat with the in-store team members, especially during a time of COVID, right? That allows you to use your in-store team members while you may not have the traffic in stores. So great stuff there. I think a question is we're talking about how technology can really improve customer engagement, but do you really get the returns? And I think what or will the customers actually adopt it? And I think what's interesting here, a couple of points. Number one, 53% of brands have identified that their customers have had a massive change in their journeys. I think we all know that. I think another point here for those folks in the IT departments, you're seeing brands reallocating, 29% of brands are reallocating marketing dollars to fund customer retention strategies. So some of those retention strategies are exactly what we're talking about. I think Oz Allen's quote here is really spot on. There's several technological initiatives that might not have been getting the consumer adoption that we would expect pre-pandemic, and all of a sudden, have exploded because obviously, because of the convenience or anxieties, whatever it may be. So, if you decide that you do need to make a change, the question is going to be: do you build, buy, or enhance your technological stack? And there's multiple variables you kind of have to look at. Cost, control, dependability. Dependability probably includes, can you have consistent connectivity? What are the support costs, et cetera, et cetera. In most cases, even if you try to buy an off-the-shelf solution, there's going to be some sort of customization that's required. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But I want to jump to the next panel discussion question. And Gary and Ajitesh, what are you seeing as some challenges or surprises when you've been trying to implement this change? And if we're going a little bit long, so keep it maybe about 5-6 minutes.
Oh boy, I'm sure that was directed at me once I get started, right?
Not at all. I think I'm going to bring you on my next sales call.
All right, I'll pick up the pace. So really for us, and I'm sure we're not unique in this, political and pandemic supply chain impacts. Again, we're in the ammunition and firearms business. So the manufacturers have not been able to recover. So on our technology journey, we spent a lot of time and focus creating in-store POP materials, online, enhancing the images, giving you the ability to focus your firearm or your scope, albeit there are a number of additional steps you have to follow when you arrive on premise to actually acquire that firearm. And now we don't have any. So that, it's like a 1-2 punch, right? So, and understanding the data, Aji touched on it, and there have been a few customer journey stories. I was customer number 26 to sign up for a loyalty program at a local grocer about 20 years ago. So they were early adopters. I had bought coffee-related supplies and paraphernalia from them for this entire time. And about a year ago, I stumbled upon the fact that they had brought in whole bean coffee and a grinding machine and ... Never bothered to tell me. That's a fail. That's a colossal fail. We don't want that. Seasons don't exist online. When the .com came, our methodology of technology telling us, okay, it's time to clearance out the deep woods off, and any of the residual that doesn't sell, pack it up in the back of the store. Gone. That's the learning. And we already mentioned we're a weather-driven business, so when the weather doesn't cooperate, you have to get creative through other ways and market categories via your .com and net new for us, your mobile app, to boost sales of things that might be meaningful to the consumer when they're not buying snowshoes and boots and jackets and hats. Projections to suppliers, inventory building, getting that commitment up front that they will produce for you. The old JIT, right? Just in time. They're not building any extra inventory for anybody. That was never more evident than when the pandemic hit. Scope. We've heard this before. Properly defining the expected outcome. What does success look like? Combined with the right level of ownership and sponsorship. Unrealistic expectations. Everything's easy. It should all work on my iPhone. Governance. Again, the right involvement from the right level of the organization. And then technology shortfalls. We touched on it earlier. We're working very hard to have this elegant weave of in-house, on-premise legacy products up against new things that we're deploying. The dance between waterfall and agile. Lack of budget, lack of funding. Supplier issues. The good old, you want to do it and do it right. You want to present it the best possible way. You want your customer to know everything about it, be able to shop it easily on their own or with some assistance from an associate. And then, you get lack of data, lack of images. They don't quite do the EDI transaction sets right. General lack of recognition of the importance of good data on the supplier side of the house. The CPG companies are phenomenal. It deteriorates fairly rapidly right after that. So those are our biggest in-house challenges. I'm sure most of those aren't unique to many on the call.
Have anything else to add to the challenges that Gary mentioned?
Sure. I just this is what we are experiencing. This is like practical. I will, in the interest of time, I will just try to finish it quick. So the thing is that so first of all, right, change, always you get resistance. So the first thing you have to find out, okay, who are the people from your organization, they are willing for the change, right? Mm-hmm. So those are the leader. You just have to identify, it doesn't matter where they work, okay, if they are in the organization, try to get them to the project. Because they are going to be, 100% they're going to support you and they're going to support for a new implementation. Yeah. And so that's what the challenge is, the change, and change is the spice of life. So definitely we need change. Initial there will be a huge resistance, but later on people understand it, and when they get the outcome, they enjoy it, right? So that's what. So I will just quickly touch on a couple of points. So what happens, right? So nowadays the trend, right? We talk about machine learning, artificial intelligence, cloud solution, on-prem solution. So these are some of the discussion, right? If you have to decide what kind of product you are implementing, right? You decide on it, and then I see there is a lot of discussion happen. There is no decision whether it's a cloud-based or how you. So you just put your assessment. Okay, kind of you can create your own checklist or assessment, and then you just go through, okay, some of the, whether this product is nimble, is it niche, okay, is it very much configurable, there is no customization needed, cost effectiveness. You put everything in an assessment, then it's going to easily help you make a decision whether you are going to go for a cloud solution or an on-prem solution. And there is like advantage, disadvantage of both sides. And we always, right, whenever we talk, and we kind of, Gary and myself, we debate about it, and we always say, hey, let's call it a hybrid. So you don't win, I don't win, or we both win, right? So that way we call it a hybrid solution. And the same way Gary kind of pointed it out, right? Is it waterfall or it's agile? Right, different life cycle of the project. Okay, some is okay, you cannot follow agile everywhere, right? In the discovery phase, you may say it's a waterfall. So again, we said, okay, what methodology you are using? We just say it's a hybrid. And this kind of win-win situation. So that is one point to point it out. Don't spend a lot of time on this. Just kind of that's part of the project process, definitely needed. And then because I'm from IBM and Infosys, so I kind of know all this quality and all this. So, but just kind of do your assessment and decide, okay, what's the path going forward. Decision making is very, very important, right? For any kind of implementation, you cannot just stay on a specific thing for long. And then the other one, when I'm saying talking about from a technical perspective, whenever you are actually developing anything or designing anything, your internal homegrown application, make sure, okay, you have some kind of a microservices available or some kind of API. Okay, the scalability of it's available, so that what happens when you're trying to integrate to an external system or internal system, to spend thousand. Okay.
Go ahead, Ashutosh. We lost you there for a second, but go ahead.
Okay, so you don't have to spend a lot of money, right? Spending for a subscription, publication, message broker, EDI, so that you have all the microservices, everything ready, and then speed to market, and then you can connect to. For an example, for cost changes, PO changes for supplier, if it's a VMI, vendor managed inventory, you just expose your API, and then they connect to it, and they can just make any of the inventory changes, PO changes, those kind of thing, right? Item creation, cost changes. That is one of the example. And one other thing which we are really, practically we are kind of experiencing in our current project, like the mobile app and the loyalty, the COVID is impacting. How COVID is impacting? Because the discovery phase, typically it happens, we call like a customer conference room pilot, right? The CRP page or discovery, it all happens within a room. People will be sitting there. We are using whiteboard, right? Brainstorming session, everything. But here, because of COVID, because of the virtual working, all these complex design, okay, they're taking longer time. Okay, so each time, you kind of try to communicate through Zoom, go to meeting, and the productivity is not 100%. Because of this virtual working, the productivity definitely is getting impacted, and which we are kind of feeling it right now. Our project timeline is kind of moving. So I just wanted to make sure, if you're planning to have a complex project during this COVID or pandemic, in this kind of time, okay, make sure that you have some kind of a buffer taking into consideration, because it's going to impact your timeline.
Excellent. Scott, anything else to add?
Both great points. I'll be brief. I think it's important to be very intentional around change management and making sure that is part of any project that you have. Don't underestimate the awareness of what the actual problem is you're trying to solve. Don't underestimate the uncertainty that in the marketplace and within your own company. Make sure you are understanding your organizational structure and the rigidity there, because sometimes that can trip you up from making changes that are needed. And really, understanding that there can be organizational resistance to the changes that you're wanting to put in play, even though that that they're very important for your very survival. And I would say that the keys to making sure that change management happens are executive leadership and sponsorship, transparency, and then communication, not only internally, but externally to your consumers, to let them know what is going on and making sure that they are part of the overall change process. You can come up with a great idea internally, you can execute it, but if the customer doesn't go along with you because they don't understand the benefits, not going to help you out very much. So again, leadership, transparency, and communication.
Excellent. And, I think both all your comments kind of marry up well together. Ashutosh, also that idea that in your organization, find who the change leaders are, make sure they're on your project, and helping with that innovation and the initiative. Great suggestion there. Okay. So then, the question comes up, how do you justify these? We've talked a lot about anecdotally, how do you justify these kind of investments? Typically, we use an ROI analysis to help convince, our financial folks that we want to proceed with these initiatives. But, whatever methodology you're going to use, what our perspective is you got to start with a customer journey. And based off of that unique customer journey, you're going to come up with a slew of potential solutions you're probably going to have to piece together. The other key point that we want to make here is that early on the process, you need to identify your key performance indicators, because without those, you're not going to be able, without those benchmarks, you're not going to be able to judge if you're successful. And that success is what's going to fund additional innovation. So I'm going to, Gary, I think you've got a great story about how you kind of justified change. So I'm going to let you speak for a couple minutes here, Scott. If you want to add something in, that'd be great. But go ahead, Gary.
Sure. So yeah, I'll start off with that, and I'll abbreviate this. The anecdotal story of sometimes the internal resistance, right? How do you justify change? So for us, and I'm sure many on the call, it's the same. Customers are driving it, right? We've got to do better. We've got to do more. We've got to make it warm and fuzzy, easy peasy, all the things we've already said. Sometimes you come up against that internal resistance where perhaps the person who has to approve the spend or approve the project isn't the shopper. They're not the shopper. They haven't been in a store in a while. Maybe they're not a .com person. Someone else in the household is procuring the goods, what have you. So in a particular instance here, I literally held an ad hoc meeting and brought together a few folks who were in charge of those decisions. And I leveraged someone else's mobile app. And in less than 10 minutes, I had a brand new shiny product in my cart on its way to my house, free shipping. I had used my wallet. I had earned my bonus points. All of that was visible on the screen, about 4 taps, and I was in business and ready to rock and roll, and that thing was on its way. So that very fast and furious, real-time, real-world display of what's out there was a seller. The conversation went very well after that. So sometimes you have to be that bold, leverage someone else's tool set, industry examples, bring up the competitor's offering if you need to make your point. Aji touched on it a bit, internal resistance. Sometimes you have to just get that out of the way, especially if it is a customer expectation. So that's my little anecdotal story. Some of the other things that we do to justify change, and it's really all customer centric. And then we have a criteria that must be followed. What does success look like? Is it a legal mandate? Is it strategic? What is the perceived ROI? The journey that we're on right now, the perceived ROI is the physical device hardware is now in the hands of the consumer. So we are not buying physical devices to deploy a mobile app and allow all this enablement. The hardware is now owned by the customer. That's a big win-win. We're talking about shutting down our price checking devices. We're talking about limiting the number of kiosks that are currently deployed in the store, because now the consumer will have everything at their fingertips. So I'll stop.
A huge savings there that you just identified, right? The hardware is in the customer's hands, and that is such a game changer. And you had touched on it earlier also, like how, team engagement equals real engagement as well. So are some of those mobile apps that you're building, are you seeing your team members using those as well?
Yes, absolutely. I'll talk fast, but yes, the flip side, we've been focused largely on customer engagement, solely. But again, these are symbiotic, they go hand in hand, right? So the answer is yes. On the flip side of that customer-facing mobile app is that store-facing mobile app, where they're seeing everything they need to rapidly pick, pack, and ship and BOPUS and answer customer questions. So this again is the convergence of some in-house products, our ERP suite and net new technologies. We have an in-house application that tells you the differentiation between your backroom inventory and your store sales floor inventory and exactly where that is in your store. Planograms are great, not short selling planograms. They tell you that the tide goes here and the bounce goes there. Wonderful. Where the hell are tide and bounce in my discrete location? So those things tied together give that associate in their hands the ability to answer you if you're standing in front of them. Where's the tide? Oh, aisle 19, row 3, shelf 2. Maybe a little too much detail, but hey, I got you there, right? But if I'm BOPUSing or pick, packing, and shipping, I need that level of granularity to get it done and get it done fast. This has also been a labor dollar savings analysis for us, because with this enablement comes the ability to take the most senior associates who are performing pick, pack, ship, and BOPUS today because they know where everything is. We can shift that to Nicky New Guy. He doesn't need to know where it is. The app will tell him where to find it.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think, Gary, what's the average size of a Fleet Farm store?
So our smallest store is about 70,000 square feet. The largest is 330,000 square feet.
So the largest is like 3 times the Target. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that location, that helps a lot. Okay. Well, hey, Scott, anything else that you would like to add?
I think certainly, look, from a perspective of a ROI, I would challenge all of the folks here to really take a balanced scorecard approach to the return. So yes, it's the financials, it's all the KPIs, making sure you're identifying them up front and then measuring them along the way. But it's also the customer and the impact on the customer and any customer metrics that you can have, whether it's net promoter score or customer effort score or CSAT, customer satisfaction. That's important. Also, to what Gary said, making sure that you're getting feedback and there are metrics around your internal organization and how it's improving that. And if you take all of those together, that's really what it's all about in terms of determining whether that effort is justifiable or not. So it's not always just about the hard financial numbers. You have to take into account the tangibles and take that balanced scorecard approach. And I think you'll find that you'll put yourself in good stead.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Good stuff, everyone. And, we're going into, before we get into the Q&A, which we might have a minute or two for that, I'm going to start another poll question. Just need to get everyone's feedback on how this how they felt that this webinar went. Let me see if I can initiate that poll. There we go. So before I get to Q&A, I do want to say that SkillNet, we are offering for qualified customers a free 1 to 2 week workshop to help identify business values, processes, and key performance indicators to help you kickstart any of these types of customer engagement projects or team engagement projects that you're looking at. So please reach out to, feel free to reach out to me or your SkillNet representative if you're interested, and we'd love to talk through this great offer we've got. All right. If anyone's, I've seen some questions coming over through the chat. So we've got 3 minutes left. I think first question I'm going to bring up is because obviously the holiday time, and so I'm going to go to Gary and Ajitesh. What are you seeing in holiday? Any surprises that you're seeing in holiday and around customer engagement or anything that's surprising you right now in technology?
Yes, all of the predictive models were wrong. We will have no clearance holiday merchandise to sell. It's gone. People are home. This is a big game changer. They've been decorating their house for Christmas since, before Thanksgiving. I think we skipped Halloween and we skipped Thanksgiving, and, we went straight to core holiday decorating, which was not planned for and not expected. So good and bad, right? We're still several weeks away from the actual event, and there's not much left to buy. So that was a surprise.
Are you just seeing that with the seasonal product, like Christmas oriented or holiday oriented items, or are you seeing it across the board?
It's across the board. It's across the board. There are complete sellouts, certainly in holiday related merchandise in particular, but also in those heavily promoted categories. Small appliance has been hit extremely well. I shouldn't say hard. We'll say extremely well. The sell-through's been grand. Gifting, things that are gifting related, and gifts for myself, we call them. So we've noticed a huge spike in tools and hardware. And, some of those are gifts, yes, and some of those are folks are in on a journey to get some essential and or something that is a need, and they're also acquiring a want. So this shift with folks being home has really been monumental.
Excellent. Scott, anything else you'd like to add about anything interesting that you're seeing in maybe in fashion and holiday?
So I would certainly say that the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now is the supply chain challenges that our friends from the parcel shippers are having out there in this space. And, I've seen just a slew of organizations changing their guaranteed ship time. So they were perhaps the 15th, 16th, 17th for ground. Now they're either past or are going to be, on this Friday or Saturday. So it's not surprising per se, just given the volume that is being pushed through the e-commerce channel, especially around gifts and fashion. But it is amazing to see that, we have just stressed our infrastructure so grand that, placing an order online right now, you may or may not get it for the holidays, which is, it's not a great experience. But it is a very big shift from years gone by.
But you'll have a great gift for Valentine's Day. So
yeah, you'll have a great gift for Valentine's Day.
Well, with that,
it's a challenge that I see out there in the space, e-commerce and fashion.
Excellent. Well, I want to say thank you to Gary, to Ajitesh, and also to Scott. I want to wish everyone a happy holiday, and also everyone please stay safe and enjoy the rest of this year. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you for having us, Sachin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.